What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the rivalries on Black Friday this year between Ole Miss and Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl, and Georgia Tech, Georgia, and Clean Old Fashioned Hate, and ending it off with the Lone Star Showdown. Let's get into it. Starting off, let's talk about Ole Miss going down to Starkville to play Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss is entering this game as 10.5 point favorites as of the time of filming. Over/under set at 59.5 in a game that if Mississippi State wants to win, it's going to have to smash the over. They're going to have to win in a shootout just with how bad their defense is. For Ole Miss, I think the rules here are pretty simple. Can you get Kawan Lacey to run the football well? If Kawan Lacey is running the football well and he's in stride and he's doing well, the offense is so open. Then get him running. They can utilize the play action. With how mobile the quarterback is, they can use the read options. Their offense opens up when Kawan Lacey is good. And we've seen him be a 100-yard rusher consistently almost all season in most games. I think the biggest question, though, for Ole Miss is where's Lane Kiffin at? We know that the Saturday following this game, Ole Miss will be making an announcement with Lane Kiffin if he's going to be the coach here or if he's leaving. No one in the country knows where he's going. There's people saying he's going to Florida, people saying he's going to Ole Miss, people say he's going to LSU. No one truly knows except for Lane and his team. If his team is checked out because of all the distractions between Lane Kiffin and then the team making the playoffs, this is a game that easily could fall into the laps of Mississippi State to find a way to pull off the upset. If you're Ole Miss, you have quite a bit to play for here. A win and you're guaranteed a playoff spot, and you're going to get a first-round home game. If you lose, I don't think you get a first-round home game. But if you win and Lane Kiffin leaves, what does the committee think about your home game still? That's up in the committee's hand. But today, the thing they have to do is just go out there and win the football game, in a game that on paper they should win. But in a rivalry with this much hate, we all know in a rivalry like this, anything is possible. For Mississippi State, the biggest question is who's their quarterback going into this one? Is it going to be Camario Taylor, the freshman, who has a lot of potential? He's a great runner, but the pass game is not pure yet. Or a quarterback like Blake Shapen, who the pass game is much more pure. He's a less mobile quarterback with all of his injuries, but he's inconsistent at times, and he can miss open guys downfield. Who's going to be the starter? In my opinion, I think that they're going to do a mix. I think that they're going to have to use Blake Shapen because if they want to win, they're going to have to take the top off the defense and hit some big plays to their elite wide receivers like Brennan Thompson and Anthony Evans. At the same time, for Mississippi State, they're also going to have to be able to utilize the run game. How well can Fluff Bothwell get yardage on the ground behind a really bad offensive line? And if he can't, how well can they use Camario Taylor to go in there and go get the rush yards they need when they need them? Overall, my opinion on this game are, I think that the team behind Lane Kiffin is bought in. I do think that, in my personal opinion, Lane Kiffin is going to Florida. But I think that is going to motivate the team to know we have to go win because we want a playoff spot. Our coach may be leaving, but we're not. We're still fighting for a championship here. And that may be a bold take, but I think that it's going to make them be bought in. I think Mississippi State is going to see more of the distractions themselves and get caught off guard. And I think that Ole Miss goes into Starkville and pulls off the commanding win in a 34-28 win. That was the 11 a.m. game. Now let's get to the 2:30 game in Atlanta, Georgia, between Georgia Tech and Georgia. Good old clean fashioned hate. In this one, let's talk about Georgia Tech first. Obviously, they're coming off a loss to a Pittsburgh team where they got torched early in that game, 28-0 before they got on the board. This game it looked like it was going towards a blowout. Then Georgia Tech came storming back. They gave it their effort. But I think the biggest question is here, how good is Georgia Tech really? We have not seen them go out there and beat a ton of great opponents. They've handled their business, which props to them. They were 9-1, but now they're 9-2. How good actually are they? This is a test where we're going to find out, is Georgia Tech a playoff caliber team? If they can beat Georgia, my answer is firmly yes. If they lose, I think they've proved to us that they're not a playoff team, and I think that they already won't be. But if they beat Georgia, they truly make themselves a candidate for the committee to consider. For Georgia Tech, I think the biggest thing is they couldn't contain the run against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had over 200 rushing yards on them. They had a run that ended up sealing the game late in the fourth quarter with about 2 minutes left. How well can they contain Nate Frazier and Chauncey Bowens? They are going to run the football. Georgia has been able to establish the run recently, and that is what led to their success against over teams like Texas. Can they do that again against a team like Georgia Tech, whose D-line is much worse than Texas was? And I think that's the biggest threat here for Georgia Tech. The biggest threat they pose is their passing game and their quarterback run game. Jamal Haynes has came in this year. He hasn't been as good as everyone thought he was going to be, but Haynes King is a quarterback who reminds everyone, and me included, a lot like Max Duggan from TCU, where he's gritty. He's going to go grind it out. He's going to go fight for the extra yards. He does not like to slide. He likes to go fight 1 or 2 yards and maybe the difference, and he's going to go get them. But at the same time, the passing game recently has been a lot more proficient for Georgia Tech. They've been able to spread the ball down the field to their good wide receivers like Malik Rutherford. They've been able to get it out there, and Jamal Haynes has been really good in the backfield catching. It's just against a Georgia defense, how well can Georgia Tech throw the ball downfield against a weaker Georgia secondary, which is the first time Georgia's had a bad secondary really in the recent history. I think for Georgia Tech, you got to look at, we took this Georgia team to 8 overtimes and we almost won. Georgia Tech believes that this team is better, and it is. But at the same time, this Georgia team is really hot right now, and they may be the better team than they were last year. It's going to be a fun one in Atlanta. For Georgia, I think it's pretty simple. How well can their defensive line get pressure on Haynes King? Can they make it where he doesn't have time to just sit back in the pocket and throw the football down the field? Can they make it where he doesn't have clean running lanes to get up the middle and run for those 15, 20, 25-yard rushes like he has a tendency to do? They're going to have to contain Haynes King if they want to win. He's that good. At the same time, how well can they run the football? I said, can Georgia Tech stop it? Can Georgia actually do it, though? Recently, we've seen them do it. But at the beginning of the season, they really, really struggled to be able to do it. But I think that they will be able to do it, and I think that's what's going to help them cement themselves into a win eventually. Another big thing for Georgia here is they have their eyes on bigger prizes than just this game. Yes, it is a rivalry. They hate each other. But Georgia has so much more to play for right now because they're going to get a playoff spot even with the loss they're in. At 9-1, with a loss, they're making the playoffs still. On the other side, though, if you win and against a ranked opponent, you really set yourself up to be in that conversation for we deserve one of these top 4 seeds. Remember, this year, the playoff committee, it's just the top 4 teams no matter what. Not the top 4 conference champions, the top 4 teams. If Georgia can get a win in a ranked game at a neutral site in Mercedes-Benz, this is a huge resume booster for them. So I think that they're going to be able to go in there with more motivation. And believe me, Kirby Smart is a guy who's going to go motivate the team. If there's a guy I trust to go get your team up and ready, Kirby Smart is probably number 1 on my list. And for that reason, I'm going to take Georgia pulling out a narrow one, 31-27 in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And finally, the 6:30 game on ABC, A&M going to Austin to play the Texas Longhorns in the Lone Star Showdown. This is a game that is going to be very interesting. Last year, we all thought it was going to be interesting. It really wasn't because neither team was able to score a ton. I think this year it's going to be different. The over-under is set at 51.5. And in my opinion, from what I've seen, I believe that this is a game that will be a shootout, a lot different than last year's low-scoring and defensive game. And I think what attributes to that a lot is A&M, in my opinion, has had a very lackluster defense this year. I think the weakest point on this A&M team and what is ultimately going to be the detriment to them winning a national championship is their defense. Their offense is great. They can move the ball. They have a great running back in Ruben Owens, who's been great. Le'Veon Moss, before he got hurt, was great. Their air raid game between Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver, and then all the other young guys, is insanely good. Throwing Terry Bussing there, kicking off from punt returns. This team is very explosive on offense. It's just, can their defense hold up? And against Arkansas this week, we saw that Texas defense struggled. They struggled against Vanderbilt, especially in that fourth quarter. They have shown weaknesses, but at the same time, so is A&M's. And I think it's going to be a higher scoring game. I think for A&M, the biggest thing here is even if you lose, you're in the playoffs. But if you win, you secure that first round bye, which is crucial because then after this game, you're going to be in the SEC Championship with a win. And then after that, you're going to get 3 weeks plus, maybe even 4 weeks off before your first game. That rest is huge to get healthy. Maybe you get a Le'Veon Moss back at that case. You get healthy, and you can be one of the healthiest teams into the playoffs in a grueling playoffs, especially with how many games they're playing now. It will be a huge factor. Another thing is, this is Marcel Reed's moment. Let's go into Austin, into Darrell K. Royal Stadium, and let's go have your Heisman moment. Everyone thought he had it against South Carolina. I don't think you can have a Heisman moment coming back from that bad of a first half. This is your game. You go out there and show the world why you think you deserve the Heisman. Can you do it? Diego Pavia gave a good performance last week. Fernando Mendoza has been good all season. This is the game that really can cement yourself in Texas A&M history, in Texas A&M lore, and in Texas A&M Heisman candidacy. For A&M, the biggest component to this offense is the deep ball. But what sets up the deep ball? It's always the run game. How well can they run the football against a very good Texas defensive line? I've preached it all year. I believe Texas has a top 3 defensive line in the SEC and maybe in the entire nation. They're a very good defensive line, especially with Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, and the front 7. All of these guys are so good at stopping the run and stuffing it. How well can A&M get Ruben Owens going to open up the play action and open up space for either Marcel Reed to be able to read the defense and scramble, or for them to take the lid off the defense and hit the deep shots like we've seen them do all year? I think the other big factor here for A&M is you got to come out clean. Against South Carolina, you came out ugly. Multiple turnovers, down 31-0 at halftime. You were losing by 31 to South Carolina team who's horrible. Granted, you came back, which phenomenal comeback for A&M, but against a team like Texas, you're not coming back from that. You will lose, especially going to Texas for the first time since 2010. This is going to be a rowdy crowd. You're going to have a lot of rowdy fans at 6:30 at night. It's a hostile environment, but A&M is built for the test. They play in front of a hostile environment themselves. They know what it's like. Can they go into Darrell K. Royal and pull out a win? I'm not sure. For Texas, the biggest key here, the defense just has to be a little bit better. I was just saying that their defensive line is so good, but against Georgia, they showed their weaknesses. They can get beat by the run sometimes. They're a much better pass rushing team than a run stopping team. And maybe that's my fault for not seeing it earlier, but I believe that if they can get to stop the run and they can limit what A&M does on the ground, they will win the football game, because that is what opens up the rest of A&M's offense. The same goes for Texas. Can they get Travion Wisner rushing better again? They have been one of the worst rushing teams in the entire SEC this season, I think only behind LSU, who's been abysmal. How can Texas pick that up on the ground game and get it going better in the future, especially in this game? And for Texas, a win, and you make the committee have to make a decision about you. You're not going to win and guaranteed in, but if you win with 3 losses, you make the committee think about it. I don't think you deserve to be in at that point. Maybe that's a homer pick, but I just don't think you have the resume built for it. But the committee's going to have to think about your name and remember you in all those discussions. And for a Texas fan, that's the only thing you can ask for at this point. Arch Manning has been playing his best football recently. He's been on trajectory since the Vanderbilt game and against Arkansas. He has been playing so well, and I was an Arch doubter. To be honest, in the beginning of the year, I thought it was going to be really bad with how it was looking, but he's proved me wrong so far. He has been so good in the recent weeks that it's hard to doubt him, especially against what, in my opinion, is a weak defense and secondary for A&M. I think Arch Manning could easily torch them. I think that we see a game where Arch Manning has 300 passing yards. He has 2 or 3 touchdowns through the air. He rushes for 1. But how well can Arch Manning use his legs? Recently, he hasn't. He just hasn't utilized them because he didn't have to. In this game, everything is on the line in this rivalry. Can he go out there, use his legs, and get the extra yardage he needs? Get the first down. Go get a 30-yard scramble. We know he can, just will he be able to do it? And ultimately, what maybe is the biggest factor in this game for Texas is, can their O-line rise to the occasion? I've said it once, I'll say it again. Against Oklahoma, they rose to the occasion. They played the best defensive line in the country, and they only allowed 1 sack. But 2 weeks ago to Georgia, they did not rise to the occasion. If you are a Texas offensive lineman, and in that media room, and in that staff room, you have to say, watch the Oklahoma film. Watch that film. If you watch that film and replicate it, your offensive line is fantastic. It's just, how many times will they do that in this game? How often will they give Arch Manning a clean pocket? How often does Arch Manning not have to go be Superman? How often can they let them just hand the football off and they gain positive yardage? Against Arkansas, Arkansas was eating up Travion Wisner for TFLs almost every play, it seemed like, because the O-line didn't get any push. This O-line is going to have to get pushed for the run game, but also going to have to get pushed in the pass game and give Arch Manning just that 1.5 to 2.5 seconds to be able to get to the deep ball or be able to find his open read. And if that can happen, I think Texas pulls this one out. My overall prediction at the end of this game is I think that it's going to come down to A&M is just going to be able to take the top off the defense a few more times than Texas is, and that is scary. And I think that's what pushes Texas A&M over the edge. And I think that the over is going to hit in this game. I think this final score is going to be Texas A&M 34 going down to Austin, Texas, and beating the Longhorns, who only score 26. Remember, everybody, these are just my takes, so make sure to leave y'all's down below in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, and noti bell. Thank y'all for tuning back in. And remember, tune back in tomorrow because we're talking about the game between Ohio State and Michigan, as well as the Oklahoma Sooners hosting the LSU Tigers. And then make sure to tune in Wednesday as we talk about all the other rivalry games, including the Iron Bowl in Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Boomer.